Over the weekend, I went to an antique and collectible show, and I bought this shell necklace with these little tiny itty bitty shells. And I've been looking for tiny shells for quite some time, and they're hard to find. So I would imagine these were something that somebody probably got when they were on a trip somewhere. So I cut them all off of the string, and the string they were on is almost like fishing wire. And I got quite a few. I mean, I've got enough that I can make a lot of crafts out of them. And so I got out some yellow acrylic paint, and I decided I'm going to paint some of them yellow. So you'll see what I have in mind. I want to make some plants with them. So what I did was is I took those little pieces of wire and I glued one shell onto the end of each wire, and I got out some air dry clay. This is that DOS brand air dry clay, and I'm just gonna grab some plant pots, and I'm going to fill some plant pots up with some air dry clay. This is typically how I make my plants. I know everybody's got their own way of doing things, but I really like doing it with the air dry clay, and then 24 hours later the plant is set really well. So here's 3 little wooden pots that I have, and I'm just going to squish some air dry clay nicely into each pot, and that will again, when it's dry, that will hold the plant in really well. And I think this stuff really does take 24 hours to dry, although it might dry quicker if it's only just a really tiny amount like what I'm using. So I'm just squishing it in as best as I can, and I don't want to fill it right to the top, but I want to get a fair amount in there. So now I've got all 3 pots ready to go, and I'm just going to take a little bit of my Taki Glue, and I'm going to put Taki Glue on top of each one of these little plants. Or I'm creating dirt is what I'm doing. So I have to make sure that I've got a good even amount of Taki Glue completely covering the air dry clay, because we don't want to see the air dry clay when I'm done. So I'm just covering it really well with the Taki Glue. And then I've got a little tea bag here, and I'm going to cut open the tea bag and just pour it on top of the Taki Glue. And voila, we've got dirt. And it really does work well. It looks like dirt. In the miniature scene, you can't tell that it isn't real dirt. So there you go. So now I've got my plants, or my little pots, are ready to start putting my shells in. So there's the shell that I've glued onto a little green wire. And I just used Taki Glue to glue it on. And I'm going to put 2 of these in each of the pots. And the reason why I'm doing 2 is because I only had a really small amount of this green wire. I'm going to have to go and buy some more. But I think 2 is enough for these tiny little pots. It'll look nice. Typically, when you do flower arrangements, you're supposed to do 3 or 5 or 7. You're not supposed to do even numbers. But hey, in the real world, there could be a plant that has 2 flowers in it. So there you go. So now they look like, in my opinion, kind of like little roses. And because I've done most of the other flowers that I've made were red, this time I decided I'm going to do them in a bright yellow. So now I don't care if I get complete coverage and a little bit of the brown pokes its nose through. That's just fine with me, because it'll just make the flower itself look more realistic. Just got to be really careful that you get into the groove of the shell, where the shell is split, so that it doesn't look white on the inside. So there you go. I think they look pretty much like flowers. Kind of cute. So I'm just doing my second one here. And I won't bore you with having to watch me paint every single flower. It just kind of, you're getting the gist of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. So, and I think they look really cute. Yeah, I'm pleased with them. I think the next batch that I do, I'm going to have to do in pink because I haven't made any pink flowers. So, oh, that looks really nice. So, and you can see the little pattern on the shell. You can kind of see it just slightly through the paint. And I'm perfectly okay with that. So on the weekend, my friend Pat gave me this little fern that she printed on her 3D printer, or she at least printed the pot, but one of the leaves came off of it. So while I've got the glue out, I best fix this up. So I'm just going to put that leaf back in so that the fern is now full. Okay, so now I have these leftover little leaves. I know they don't look like rose leaves, but oh well. They are, after all, seashells, so I don't think it really matters if they're the exact right leaves. They're leaves, and I'm going to use them because they're leftover. So I'm just going to dip these into the Taki Glue and just kind of attach them to the stems and let it sit for 24 hours, and I'm sure they'll be nice once the glue is completely set. So, and again, you know, it's a plant, so there's no rhyme or reason as to how it should be glued on. Just kind of some of the bigger ones at the bottom of the plant and the tinier leaves at the top of the plant is kind of how I'm doing it. So, and I had just exactly enough of these leaves to do these three little plants. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So I mean, I really think having plants inside of a dollhouse or flower vases is really super cool. Gives that added realism. So I got this little mirror at the local craft store at Michael's. In their very tiny miniature section, believe me. But I got this mirror probably about a year ago. And I've never used it because I just think it's too new and shiny looking, and it's just not really my thing. And this is why I really wanted to find tiny shells, because I wanted to make a shell mirror. So I sped this up so that you don't have to watch me glue every individual one on. But as you can see, I'm just kind of going around and I'm gluing each of the shells on. And I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled with this little mirror. And once this glue is dry, it'll dry clear. So you will be able to see a little bit of the gold highlighting. But isn't that so cute? And you know, in Victorian times, a lot of people used to decorate with shells. So it was a big thing back then. So I'm just so pleased with it. And here's kind of a side view of what the plants look like. And yeah, they kind of look like little roses. I think they're so cute. So I really enjoyed doing this craft tonight. I found it so relaxing. I am so happy I found that shell necklace. If you enjoyed today's video and would like to help support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Lisa And thank you so much to everybody that's been supporting my channel by buying me a coffee. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that like button and tell your friends about my channel. I'm almost at 1,000. Have the best day ever.